Have you ever played a complicated game without rules or tried to organize a large group without a leader? It quickly turns into chaos, right? That's why we have government. At its heart, a government is just the system, the rules, and the people we use to keep our society running smoothly. It exists in your town hall, your state capitol, and in Washington, D.C. Its core job is simple: keep things orderly and make sure the public gets the services it needs, like working traffic lights and good schools. Think of law enforcement and the court system as the government's backbone for order. Without laws, people could take whatever they wanted or harm others without consequence. The government steps in to create fair rules, like stop signs or rules against stealing, and then enforces them. This essential function provides the stability that allows us to go to school, start a business, and live our lives without constant fear of conflict or disorder. It's the ultimate peacemaker. Imagine having to pay a company every time you wanted to drive on a road, or hire a private security guard to protect your house from fire. That would be expensive and messy. This is why the government provides public services. Things like fire departments, public schools, and clean water systems benefit everyone, not just one person. We all pitch in through taxes so that these vital services are available and affordable for the entire community. Public policy is just a fancy way of saying, here's the government's plan. If a community decides that recycling is important, the local government doesn't just wish it would happen. They develop a policy, a concrete plan to make it happen. They might pass a law requiring separation of trash or provide bins. The government constantly makes these policy choices about everything from healthcare to traffic flow, essentially steering the community in a chosen direction. This is one of the most serious jobs of the government. Protecting the nation from threats outside our borders is critical. That includes having a strong military to defend us, but it also means having organizations that gather information, often called intelligence, to spot dangers before they happen. Border security and national defense are complex, vital responsibilities that ensure we can live safely and independently as a country. If you live in a democratic country like the United States, then you are the boss. Democracy means rule by the people. We don't all gather in a huge stadium to make every single decision. Instead, we have a representative democracy. We vote for people to represent us and make decisions on our behalf. If those representatives don't do a good job, we can vote them out in the next election. The whole system rests on the idea that the government's power comes from its citizens. Now imagine a country where the ruler's word is law, and you have no say in how things are run. That's an authoritarian system. In a dictatorship, one person holds all the power, and citizens have very limited freedoms. The leader doesn't have to answer to the people. Historically, monarchies where a king or queen had absolute power were authoritarian. Understanding this type of government helps us appreciate the freedoms we have in a democracy. Why do we have different layers of government? Think of it like a group project where one student handles the overall presentation design and other students handle the individual slide content. In the US, our system, called federalism, divides power between a big national government and smaller state governments. The national government handles things like coining money and international treaties, while states manage things like drivers, licenses, and local education policies. This ensures that some decisions are made nationally, but other decisions can be tailored to the specific needs of a state. The founders of the US were very smart. They worried that giving too much power to one person or group would lead to tyranny, like having a king again. So they decided to divide the national government's power into 3 distinct parts or branches. This idea is called the separation of powers. It's like having 3 separate engines running a car, one for acceleration, one for steering, and one for braking. They all work together, but they are separate and keep each other in check. The first of our three engines is the legislative branch, or Congress. Their main job is to make the laws. Think of Congress as the national rule makers. It's made up of two parts: the House of Representatives, where representation is based on population, and the Senate, where every state gets two representatives. They debate, discuss, and vote on everything from funding schools to declaring war. The second engine is the executive branch, which is responsible for carrying out and enforcing the laws that Congress makes. This branch is led by the president, often called the chief executive. The president acts like the CEO of the country, making sure the rules are followed, appointing officials, and serving as commander-in-chief of the military. When Congress passes a law, it's the president and their entire team who make it happen. Finally, we have the judicial branch, the national referee. Their job is to interpret the laws. If there's a disagreement about what a law means, or if someone has broken a law, the courts step in. At the top is the Supreme Court. Their most powerful job is judicial review, deciding if a law passed by Congress or an action by the President goes against the U.S. Constitution. They ensure the laws are fair and constitutional. While the three branches have separate jobs, they don't operate in total isolation. The system of checks and balances allows each branch to put a limit or a check on the power of the other two. For example, if Congress passes a law, the President can veto it. But Congress can then override that veto with a large majority vote. This is the way the government keeps itself in balance, preventing any single branch from becoming too dominant. One of the most important principles of our government is the rule of law. This means that the law applies to everyone equally, without exception. Imagine if a police officer or a senator could steal things without facing charges. That would be chaos and unfair. The rule of law ensures that government officials, the president, and ordinary citizens are all held accountable to the same set of rules. It is the foundation of a fair society. Being a citizen in a democracy is not just about having rights. It also comes with duties. The government protects your basic rights, like freedom of speech and religion, which are outlined in the Bill of Rights. In exchange, citizens have responsibilities. These include things like voting to choose your leaders, paying taxes so the government can function, and serving on a jury when called. Participation is what makes a democracy strong. How do schools get built? How does the military get paid? The answer is taxation. Taxes are essentially the membership fee we all pay to live in an organized society. The government collects different kinds of taxes, like a tax on what you earn, income tax, or a tax on what you buy, sales tax, and uses that money to fund all the public services we discussed earlier. It's the engine that keeps the services running. The government doesn't run the entire economy. We have private businesses for that, but it certainly plays a major role in regulating it. Think of the government as the referee in a huge economic game. It sets the rules for how businesses must treat workers, protects consumers from bad products, and works with banks to keep the financial system stable. Its goal is to make sure the economy is generally fair and growing, which benefits all citizens. The preamble to the U.S. Constitution says one of the goals is to promote the general welfare. This means the government has a job to improve the overall quality of life for all citizens. This is why we have programs that help people in need, such as those that provide support for the elderly, disabled, or those who can't afford health care. It's the idea that a healthy, strong society cares for all its members. Imagine if the rules of the country could never change. Society evolves, and so must the government. That's why the founders included a process to amend or change the Constitution. It's purposely a very difficult process, requiring huge agreement from both Congress and the states. to ensure that changes are not made lightly or quickly. This balance between stability and flexibility is key to the Constitution's long life. So why should a seventh grader care about these three branches or tax systems? Because the government is not some distant thing. It's the structure that shapes your daily life. It decides what you learn in school, how safe your neighborhood is, and what roads you drive on. Understanding its functions and purposes gives you the power to be an informed, active citizen who can shape policy and choose the leaders who will represent your future. Your voice matters.